Yes, she's going to be very good. She has a very, very intriguing story. And if you want to create your own story by co-creating the experiences in your life that you want to have, you want to love, and actually that you deserve, I'm going to do a workshop on July the 27th entitled Liberate Your Life. And we're going to look at a number of principles and tools that we can use to shatter limiting beliefs that hold us back. We're going to look at ways that we can, blast away a sense of unworthiness that we may have within us, cast a new future by using a life liberation method, and also the mindset to help us get there. So you can sign up in the courtyard if you'd like to be part of that class that workshop on July the 27th, and more information will be coming out about that.
Sounds good. Now, there are a couple of special people that I want to talk about. For the past 6 years, what happened?
No, they saw the pictures and
they saw the picture. What happened back there? It's out of control. It really is. Okay. For the past 6 years, Richard and Dottie Ekstrom. Why don't you stand up so they can stop?
So we acknowledge you.
Richard and Dottie. And you probably have no idea why you're applauding, but you're applauding because they have been a big part of the landscaping team for the past 6 years. So we really appreciate them, and we would like to give them our blessing now. So you know how to do this, right? You rub your hands, get that energy moving. Okay. Richard and Dottie, we bless you. We love you. We appreciate you. And we behold God's love as you. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
So what that means, because these two special people are stepping down, we've got an opening for 2 more or more special people. You can either have a green thumb, you can be very obedient and follow orders well, whatever. But if you would like to serve in that capacity, please go out to the cashier and you can get some more information on that.
And we also have some information from our youth ministry. Reverend Janee is going to come forth and share that with us this morning. So welcome, Rev Janee.
Good morning. I want to thank y'all for putting up with me every month as I come up here and share all this information. I have a lot this month, so we have a lot we want you to be aware of in July. So here we go. I hope y'all had a good 4th. I had an amazing 4th, so I hope y'all did too. So if you were here last Sunday, you know that we sent Cameron and Michael Lawson off to Unity Village to the International YOU Conference with our love and blessings, and that conference starts today. So I just wanted us to all send our love and know that this is going to go with ease and grace for all of them. And our vision for empowering our children to become the next enlightened leaders of our world really becomes manifest in these types of events. And our SLC teens are going to be doing a service at the end of the year where they can share more about these events and the impacts that they've had on their lives. So we'll keep you posted on when that's coming up. We're also looking to staff our nursery again. We're having some wee ones show up that we would like to welcome in. And so we're looking for a couple of loving baby nurturers, if that's something that speaks to any of you. Our nursery is for children birth to 4 years old, and these are paid positions. So if you're interested, or if you're interested in working with any of the age groups of our kids, I'm going to be outside after service. Please come and talk to me, and I can give you more information about that. We do have some new volunteers in youth ed, which is awesome. And so as a convenience, we've invited LiveScan to be on site next Sunday. And LiveScan is how we fingerprint and background check the people who work with our kids here at Spiritual Life Center. So I wanted to put that invitation out there. If there are any of you who have that calling in your heart that you may want to come and work with our kids, or even if you'd just like to be involved in some of our special events, I'd like to invite you to come next Sunday after second service at 12:30. And we can do that fingerprinting and everything really easily on site instead of having to send you off somewhere to do that. So if that speaks to you, please join us for that. And the following Sunday, which is July the 21st. I'm not sure if you all are aware, but that is International Ice Cream Day. Did you know this?
I know it now.
I didn't know it either, but we have a very special congregant and singer who attends here, Carol Manson, and she has donated ice cream so that all of our youth can have an ice cream Sunday celebration after service that Sunday. And so we'd like to invite y'all, all of you who have kids or grandkids, to come and join us after second service on the 21st and get to know us and talk and share a little bit. We'd love to have you. And just as a save the date for all you parents in here, August 31st is going to be our summer fun day, where we can have the kids just come and have fun. Right here at Spiritual Life Center, we're going to spend the day tie-dyeing and playing and doing games and connecting and breaking bread together. So save that date if you've got kids or grandkids. We'd love to have them. And finally, I just wanted to share with you, we're still continuing our ongoing Children on the Quest series with our youth education kids. And our theme for July is changing and growing. And we'll be looking at how we grow as we're willing to look at doing new things, and how that new discovery can be so much more enhanced with God, the God within us. And so we're going to be taking a look at, no matter what's happened, we can start again. And as we change inside and we know God more inside, everything in our life changes. So we're welcoming all the children in this month with open arms. So please join us, and thank you all for continuing to hold our children in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Janee. And at this time, we want to acknowledge three groups of people: our ambassadors, any board of members that are here this morning, and our prayer chaplains. And the ambassadors are wearing the rainbow ribbons, and they will help you answer questions that you may have about how to find things and point you in the right direction, let you know what's going on at Spiritual Life Center. So we appreciate their wonderful hospitality to provide those who are part of our community. Our board of trustees are wearing the purple ribbons on their name badges, and are here they help us guide and shape and provide direction for the spiritual community here to keep us on track and viable. So we thank them for their consciousness and the amount of work that they put in as members of our board of trustees. And of course, our prayer chaplains are doing the very important work of holding that prayer consciousness. Sometimes we have challenges and we need to be reminded of who we are, and they help us do that. Sometimes we're just going through joyful experiences, and they want to help leverage that up and even to the next level of joy, and they help us do that as well. And they're available to pray with you right after the service here in the sanctuary or in the courtyard. So we thank them for their wonderful work that they provide here at Spiritual Life. Yes.
And now, if you're here for the very first time, in a moment, we're going to ask you to raise your hand, but not yet. Hold off. We know that it's hard to come into a new community, right? And so we want to make sure that you know all the opportunities to connect with this community. So first of all, you can look in your bulletin, and there are a lot of events there. But also, the ushers will come around. They're going to give you a card that you can fill out. And when you fill that out, you can turn it into the offering basket or out at the welcome table. And if you go to the welcome table, you get a gift. So now,
anyone here for the first time? Any first timers here this morning? Just keep your hand up. Any first timers? No?
Everybody knows the secret handshake here.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're all familiar with one another, but we're going to go and greet each other and just greet your friend, neighbor, and say, "You are marvelous. Glad you are here."
Marvelous.
invite you to stay standing and join us in singing our group song Touch of the Divine by Richard Burdick.
Beyond myself in humility, and I embrace the mystery. Standing in the light, God's love is enough for me. Standing in the light, in God's love I am set free. I stretch my wings, I'm lifted up by the unseen power of life. I stretch my wings, I soar, yes, and now I fly, for I've been touched by the divine. Standing in the light, God's love is enough for me. Standing in the light, in God's love I am set free. I'm standing in the light, God's love is enough for me. Standing in the light, in God's love I am set free. In God's love I am set free. In God's love I am set free.
A little calypso.
And now, as we have been doing for some time now, working on our cue process together as a community and individually, and we've been speaking out loud our cue qualities, both the ones we'd like to transform and the ones that we confirm and affirm we've come here to be. So let's speak that together. Please have compassion for us when we are being not enough, distrusting, grieving, blaming, powerless, or fearful, because this is who we have come here to be, inspired, in integrity, joy-filled, compassionate, unstoppable, generous, and transformational. Now let's enfold all of those beautiful qualities into our vision statement. Spiritual Life Center is a loving, vibrant family that welcomes home all people and accepts everyone, no exceptions, weaving ancient spiritual traditions with emerging wisdom. We cultivate a spiritual deepening with the divine, each other, and our planet.
And now, in preparation for meditation, I invite you to sing this meditation chant in this very room together.
In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. And there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to walk through every fear. For one spirit is in this very room.
So as we move into this time of meditation, let's breathe together. Breathing in and breathing out. In this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. There's enough joy and hope and power to walk through every fear. For Spirit, one Spirit is in this very room. Breathe that in, deep into your belly. In this very room, with each breath, relaxing. With each breath, softening. Continuing to breathe. Bring your attention to your heart, your beautiful heart, and begin breathing through your heart. Breathing in and breathing out. With each breath, feeling your heart opening and expanding. As we breathe and relax, we can sense Spirit. We can experience this presence with our mind. We feel it with our body. Sensing into this presence that you are. Spirit, in this very room. Spirit, everywhere you are. No matter what you're going through, there's quite enough love and quite enough power right here, right now, to see you through. We just need to slow down and stop and breathe. And then we can sense that Spirit is in this very room, already here, fully present, patiently waiting for us to notice, willing to meet whatever life presents us. And as we meet it, our fears are transformed into strength. God truly is our strength in the storm. Wherever you are, God is. Wherever you stand is holy ground. This presence and this power that you're looking for is what is looking through your eyes in every moment. It's what breathes you. You are so loved You don't even breathe yourself. Spirit is breathing you in this very moment. Breathing love into every cell of your being. And so as we move into the silence, open to receive the love of your Creator, the love of your God. Every cell of your being radiates love. Never doubt that you are the light of the world, here to light the world with your love. Let's love recklessly, my friends. And so it is. Amen.
Long time ago, sitting in the garden, without a worry, not a care. A thought rose on the horizon. We'd really like to know what makes this world go round. We took the dare. Through our participation in this great creation, light shines on our good works and some not so. With worries for the future, regrets about the past, each precious present moment, where do they go? Raging waters of emotion, blown by chaos and commotion, spinning thoughts in constant motion. Hold on to the notion, be not afraid, in a world where fear is bought and sold, where too often me strength in the storm. When the blazing sun will grill us and corporate greed is out to steal us, and the food we eat might kill us, and doctors' pills can't heal us, be not afraid, in a world where fear is bought and sold. Too often anger rules the soul.
one and only Ann Roach, reminding us of the strength. And Paula. Okay. He didn't give me a chance to go through everybody. They weren't going to be forgotten. And the sound man, and all of you. It takes a whole village to make it work. When I was in ministerial school, two of my classmates and I were student ministers at a local church in Kansas City, Missouri. And the other two gentlemen that were in my class, one of them you may even know both of them. One was Jim Lee, and the other was Ken Williamson. And we were also, over time, known as the Three Amigos. And I remember one time I was teaching a Bible class. This was one of the Unity churches that really focused a lot on Bible. Unlike, there's always a wide spectrum. There's some that you never hear anything from the Bible. There's some that speak nothing but the Bible. And there's some in between. I guess we're kind of like in-betweenish like. But anyway, we were reading a story. And the story is about Abraham and his two sons. And he had two sons, one from a slave, one from his, wife at the time. And then at the end of the story, there was this line. And it says, "This story is an allegory." And one of the people that had brought their own Bible said that doesn't say that in my Bible. In my Bible, it says, "This is a literal story." Now, if you understand, how the Bibles are put together, there's all kinds of versions of the Bible. The King James, the New Revised Standard Version, this version, that version. It must be a couple dozen or more. And of course, this particular version that was being read by that person in the audience was written by someone who had an agenda to affirm that everything in the Bible was literal. And the reality is that what was written in the Bible was never meant to be literal history, although there is history in it. Because many of the writings in the Bible were like poets. And it was really symbolic. There's a poem that says these words, "In the spring I asked the daisies if his words were true. And the clever, clear-eyed daisies always knew." Now, the reality is they didn't literally ask the daisies if the words were true. That was a symbol. And it was symbolizing, youth and things of that nature. And similarly, Bible stories are often allegorical. They reveal something within us in order for us to bring out the truth of our own being. So today I'm talking a little bit about, Bible stories, Bible history. I don't talk, it's a little different from my normal talks. But, sometimes I got to be different. It's good to be different. But anyway, in the beginning of Christianity, there were always two strands. There was one strand that put the power outside of us, outside of the individuals, put it in the power of a deity outside of us. And later on in that same strand, individuals said that the word of truth was in this Bible and you had to accept it. But then there was another strand that said that the power was within us. And this originated with the Gnostics, or what they call gnosis, or the knowledge that is within. They knew there was an inner knowing, and that we're never trying to put anything in us. We're always trying to bring something out, what's already there, in order to reveal who we really are. So unity is part of this New Thought tradition, that part of Christianity. And there's a wonderful professor by the name of Elaine Pagels who wrote a book called The Gnostic Gospels, as well as a book entitled Beyond Belief, that really looks into how these two strands began to evolve over time. And it kind of diverged into what we have today, into different perspectives on God, different perspectives on Christianity. And it got me thinking that oftentimes the perspectives that we have, which is often a minority, but is becoming more and more pervasive in our society today. But sometimes it's not looked upon very highly by everyone. The people that frown upon this perspective, particularly those who have not investigated and simply hear the cliches or they simply hear the pop phrases that have spawned from this very powerful teaching. So they may talk about us. Well, they may talk about me. They criticize us in some way, shape, or form. Say those people, they're part of a cult. They say all kinds of weird things, and they have not investigated what the foundations of these teachings such as these are. But you know what a cult is? I'll tell you. A cult is a group of groupies that does not aspire to go beyond the consciousness of the leadership. And a groupie is an individual who does not do his or her own homework and tries to get into their own spiritual growth simply on somebody else's consciousness alone. Not to say we don't look at models to help us along the way, but we have to really bring it out ourselves. No one can help us grow. And so we believe this teaching that gives the teaching back to themselves. We go to that power that is within us. And so we grow out of groupiness. We grow out of groupiehood, if there is such a word. It is now, because I said it. And realize that we have the same power anyone has ever walked the planet has had. And our job is to be still in order to access this. And so one of the ways that we help access this is our approach to how we interpret the Bible. And we don't talk a lot about the Bible here, but that's okay. I feel like saying a little bit today. You know, we're looking at this month the metaphysical Bible interpretations, which I think is our unique contribution to Bible study. And so people may ask this question, well, what is Unity's take on the Bible? Do you accept it as literal? Do you accept it as true? And of course, sometimes when people ask that question, they're saying in code, if you do not, you know what's going to happen to you. But I'd like to point out that if we look at the Bible as a mere literal history, it's just another story. We can easily forget it. It has little meaning in our life. But if we look at the stories as a reflection of what's going on within us, the stories become a very powerful mirror of life and our human experience. And they give us instructions on how to get through life. Many people don't see it that way. Some people don't even read it. They may have it around. There was a little boy who said to his parents, he said, he was looking on the bookshelf, and there were a lot of books there, and they had one book that just had a lot of cobwebs and dust on it, and he asked his mother, said, Mommy, whose book is this? And she said, oh, that's God's book. That's God's book. He said, well, I don't know why we have it. Nobody around here ever reads it. He was noticing these things around the house. You know, it's probably one of the best-selling books of all time, although I mentioned earlier with Amazon around, I don't know what the best-selling book is now. But individuals who look at it literally maintain it's the Word of God, written by God, not to be questioned in any way, shape, or form. If you bring up a question that they really can't answer, they'll say, it's in the book. End of story. Don't even question that. But if we read it as a literal historical document, it can be frustrating at times. I remember one summer I decided I was going to read the book from cover to cover. And I was plodding through all the shalls and the shall nots, the thous and the these, who begat whom, the contradictions, the soap opera dramas that were going on, the violence, the seeming impossibilities. And I was asking, what kind of God is this? So finally I gave up, somewhere in the book of Numbers, because it never made any sense to me. But the mistake made was that I tried to read it like it was a book. It was never meant to be like a book or a novel, although there's some very interesting stories in there. You know, the master teacher said something to this effect, that you search the scriptures because for in them ye think ye have eternal life. He said the answers are not just by reading the literal meaning. Yet if we look beyond the literal meaning, we'll discover a pattern of humankind's unfolding spiritual awareness because it reflects something going on within us. Because as we look at those stories, the more we evolve, the more we see the meaning that's behind the words. Somebody said they had read through the Bible, and in the beginning, you know, they saw a God that was jealous and vengeful and judgmental, all the way to the New Testament where it said, God is love. And they said, wow, God got better as he got older, didn't he? Of course, God is changeless. What has happened is that we've evolved over time. We've come up with a different perspective. So the Bible, when seen as a reflection of the unfoldment of human consciousness, our development, and as an allegory of the human experience, it can be powerful and inspiring a piece of work. So we look at it from that metaphysical, allegorical perspective. And so we look for the inner meaning, which is true concerning life and every human being, that regardless of time, regardless of place, regardless of circumstance, we look beyond the words. We look to the meaning behind the words, so that every story that's in there, every event that's in there, every person that's in there, every place that's in there has a meaning of what's going on with us. It tells something about us. And in Unity, they have this big, thick book called the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. And it has all the different stories and the names of the characters and the places that they had been. And Charles Fillmore looked at what all of they meant as far as an esoteric meaning for us. Now, also he said that when we read those stories, we don't necessarily have to go by somebody else's interpretation. We go within and ask for guidance and say, what does it mean for me based upon where I am in my own awareness? So today we're going to look at the story of Adam and Eve. Called it Adam and Eve, the Fall Upward. And it's in the book of Genesis. And I'm reading from this New Revised Standard Version. That's where I got it from. But there's so many others. And it's talking about, how God is punishing folks for being disobedient. And this is what it says. It said, the serpent was more crafty than any wild animal that God had made. He said to the woman, did God say you shall not eat from any tree in the garden? The woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die. But the serpent said to the woman, you will not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And so this is a famous encounter between Eve and the serpent. And those who look at it literally look at the story as Adam and Eve disobeying God by eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And they were tempted by the serpent to eat from the tree. And they were expelled from the garden. And this is what they consider the original fall of humankind, at least for those who look at it literally. Of course, Adam and Eve, they didn't take the cue. So there was a lot of blame going on around this time, Adam blamed Eve, Eve blamed the snake, and the snake didn't have a leg to stand on. But we digress. The story taken literally seeks to explain the so-called sin of disobedience, but we know what sin is. It means that we just didn't know. There's nothing flawed about us. There's no such thing as original sin. We're all original blessings of the presence. Sin simply means we missed the mark. We made a mistake. We just didn't know. We were ignorant at that time, and that can always be corrected. But the problem with this, how could Adam and Eve be accused of disobedience when they had no knowledge of what good or evil was? How could they do wrong when they had no idea what wrongness was? This is the problem when we try to take an allegory and take it literally. So we can look at this story from a different perspective. We can look at it for the symbolic meaning of the characters, of the events, of the places. In this story, understanding that each of them represent an aspect of our own awareness, our own consciousness. So Adam and Eve are not two people in the story. They represent qualities. They represent qualities within us, the thinking and the feeling part of us. It also represents moving from purely the spiritual realm into the physical world. It happens every time there's a birth. So Adam and Eve are not some historical characters. They're archetypes of humanity in general. And the serpent represents our desire for experience. It represents our desire for sensations. In the Eastern philosophies and the Eastern cultures, the serpent represents wisdom. Somebody tried to tell me what's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And they had a very interesting perspective. They said, knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. But wisdom is knowing that you wouldn't put a tomato in a fruit salad. I said, okay, that made a lot of sense to me at the moment. Wisdom. I know I got a weird, perspective on things. But that serpent represents that part within us that is seeking wisdom and understanding. And it can only be gained by leaving the passive state of Eden and stepping forth into that evolution of our soul. And we only get that evolution of our soul through experience. And soul growth is not always easy. Jesus said, in this world you have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. But there's going to be tribulation. We have to moved through that. We have to grow and unfold. And sometimes it's not always easy. But always remember the words from Bobby McFerrin. Don't worry, be happy. In this life, you have some trouble. But in this world, you make it double. Don't worry, be happy. So we have to get through that part and know that at the end of that, there is bliss. But sometimes there's tribulation along the way. But that's part of the growth process for our destiny to reach its potential. But we have to discover it for ourselves. Oftentimes, I realize that as I look back at my life when I reached that low point where I had my own addictions and I had to go through self-forgiveness after my own personal fall in life, I had to come to the realization that no matter what I've done or not done, nothing can stop the Spirit of living God from loving us, supporting us, and expressing itself as us. But only when you go through that experience, then you have that ability to see that, to feel that, and to know that within your soul. And so the so-called fall or the expulsion from Eden is not about a fall, but an emergence from a spiritual ideal that they were in for the purpose of growing their spirit, for growing their soul. So there's not a vindictive God or a judgmental God, but the outworking of spiritual law to help us discover our true self. I often use that analogy about the chicken and the egg, and I use that from time to time, and the chick's in the egg, and the only world it knows is inside of that egg. It's comfortable there. It's kicking back, got everything it needs. But then something begins to happen. It starts to grow. There's a life force within it. And it begins to feel uncomfortable as that life force begins to expand. It pollutes its environment, eats up all its food. And suddenly it feels like it's going through a fall. And the chicken may begin to pray, and it doesn't really know what it wants. It may just pray, like I said, for a bigger bathroom or more food. But some people constantly do the same thing. They keep running back to things that do not work. They're praying for that bigger bathroom, more food, and they say, if that other person would change. And they're stuck in the egg, praying for that bigger something. But there's a new life that's seeking to emerge that we cannot have emerge unless we go through whatever we have to go through. And it's not that we're trying to become something, we're trying to reveal what's already there. So in the moment when the chick becomes still and that inner prompting takes over its life, it begins to peck, it begins to move, and a whole new life emerges to reveal its true self. And it looks out, sometimes beyond its wildest imagination, and there's a world outside of that egg. It has a little wingspan, it has legs, it begins to get stronger, and there are infinite possibilities of choice that it has available to it. And the chick may say to itself, chick, I guess, it gets out of itself and gets into that, whatever. Chick, I'm sure I'm glad I didn't get what I was praying for. Sometimes I say, thank God for unanswered prayer. I don't know if you ever had that experience. I've had that experience. Thank God I didn't get what I think I wanted in life, because it could have been a lot worse. I was sharing that sometimes, we go along in a certain way and things get sidetracked. And I was reading about these two guys who were engineers in a company. And the company was doing some shenanigans behind the scenes. And they went up to the higher ups in the company to alert them about this. And instead of getting, commended and supported and acknowledged, they were fired. And they were commiserating together. And they decided, we know everything we need to know to create what we want to create. Because they were on this thing of creating this robotic vacuum. And so they decided to get together, put together this robotic vacuum, create their own life, their own business. And they realized they were complaining about getting fired. But now we don't want to complain about the old stuff anymore, our old problems. Every once in a while, just check ourselves out and ask ourselves, do we have the same kind of complaints we had 3 years ago? If so, it's an indication there's something that should have emerged that has not emerged yet. So some people, they have the same complaints. There should be a little different complaint. So they moved from complaining about being laid off to complaining about how we're going to fulfill the demand that so many people want for this business that we have now. We should all have new complaints. Because if we have a new way of seeing things, we'll realize that every adversity can be reversed. Every sickness can be healed. Every failure can open up doors to success. Every disappointment can be a stepping stone to a greater expression of life. But only if we realize that we are in our right place, no matter what we're going through, because we're right there because of the right of consciousness, and we can always move to another level. Often before we get to that realization, we may be partaking in this knowledge of, quote, good and evil, as Adam and Eve were warned about in the scriptural reference we talked about. And of course, we know that in this teaching that there's no self-originating power of evil. Evil things happen in the world, but it's by choice of individuals. There is no power opposing God that creates evil. It is human beings' choice. So knowing good and evil means that we have forgotten our oneness. We've forgotten that we've kind of created a sense of separation. We've fragmented our life of spirit versus matter, birth versus death, good versus evil, God and the devil. That's a whole nother story about the devil. Okay. We'll talk about that at some point. Me and not me, other people, the otherness. And our eye is no longer single of the realization of our oneness. And sometimes when we see in this dual way, we move through different states of awareness throughout our day. Sometimes we move through a state of jealousy or envy or doubt or worry or fear. But God did not make a jealous person. God did not make an envious person. God did not make a worried person. God did not make a doubtful person. God made whole soul expressions of itself because we are an expression of this one presence. And so when we look at things of duality, we move into these states of jealousy or doubt or fear or worry. It's just a state that we created. And it's created by the pictures that we see in our minds and what we say about those pictures. But understand that we have the power to name things. And how we name it determines our experience. How we see it determines our experience. It has nothing to do with God's good for us. It's simply induced by a particular state, by what we say about the pictures going on in our minds. And I think it's one of the powers of the Q is that we can begin to reinterpret those pictures to have an empowering experience. And I shared earlier when I was at Unity Village, going to ministerial school, I used to jog regularly. Don't do that no more. But I used to jog regularly and used to have hills. And I remember one day I was jogging and I was like, I said, I can't do it anymore. I can't make it. I'm tired. I just had created this scenario in my mind that I could not go one more step. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a German shepherd started chasing me from out of the wind. And I was able to run faster than I ever ran before in my life. I created a different picture. I had a different experience. And we can create different experiences for ourselves. We have dominion over the lesser things. We have dominion over the thoughts that pass through our awareness. And we can induce whatever state that we want to by seeing a difference. Sometimes people have all kinds of excuses as to what state they're in. And it becomes a cycle, it becomes a pattern, and they live that out. They think this is how it's supposed to be. They'll say, things like, this is how it always has been. My parents acted like this. My grandparents acted like this. This is the way it is, Rev. You just don't understand. This is where I came from. And we oftentimes become very eloquent, can cite chapter and verse as to what state we've invoked at any given moment. We'll look back on our experience and say, I remember the first time I became sad. My father walked out the door, slammed the door, and every time I hear a door slam, I get sad. Now, we don't want to discount any of those experiences. We've all had some of them. But I'm saying we have dominion and control of the meaning of the pictures running through our minds. We can take dominion and give it new meaning. We can always do this and invoke a whole new state. The universe is rigged in our favor. Everything is working together for our good. But sometimes we have to move through the discomfort of transformation. We have to get kicked out of Eden. We have to be expelled from our comfort zone, as Adam and Eve's story suggests. And this will allow us to expand and be different and see things differently and hear things differently, even if it challenges our perception of what we think is right. Anyway, we can look at this Adam and Eve story, which is really saying we're falling into the practical unfoldment of our God-given potential. And you may ask sometimes, as I've asked, well, if God is all that there is, and if God is good, and God is all-powerful, why go through this evolutionary experience? Why didn't God just give us all the inspired thoughts to think, and we just think them? Well, nobody can grow for us. That way, we have to be kicked out of Eden in order for us to think for ourselves. Why go through all this? What's the purpose? And I often ask, well, couldn't Spirit God come up with a better plan? Make it a little easier for us? I can only speculate that there's no separate entity that's playing chess with us. It's not playing chess with humankind. There's only an impulse of life which is of God and is within us. And what does that impulse do? It falls from oneness or leaves a state of grace or perfect ideas into the state of an illusion of separation, an illusion of otherness, an illusion of duality. To experience the experience of being separate, trying to rule one's destiny from that illusion. And oftentimes we do that in our life and in our world. But we cannot rule from that illusion because the very premise of it is incorrect. We never can get a right answer. If we start to solve a problem or situation from a false premise, our attempt to answer that question will always be incorrect. It's like, you're in San Francisco, but you got a map in Los Angeles. I don't care how good that map for Los Angeles is. You will not get around San Francisco very well. You're working from a wrong premise. So it's my speculation why humankind takes this route is this. When human beings was in this Garden of Eden, was in this space of divine and perfect consciousness, everything was named good, and only God. And man had no choice in the matter. It didn't know any better. But once human beings went through a separation experience, they returned to this Garden of Eden, or total spiritual awareness. And they will be innocent once again. But this time, the innocence will be by choice. And human beings will know what is true, what is right, what is eternal. And they will sustain it by that choice. And by the power of choice, we will begin to uplift the entire world. That is why we are here. Anyway, that's James Trapp's take on the story of Adam and Eve. And so we're going to continue on this series on metaphysical Bible interpretations. I'm going to talk next week about Peter walking on the water. And what does that really mean for us? What does it symbolize for us? So in the meantime, I invite you to take your gift, your tithe, your love offering. And as we get into this flow of divine giving, knowing that whatever we give out comes back to us, but also supports this community to prepare it for those who are on their path of transformation. and preparing for those who are on their way to getting something to help them realize their true nature and being as children of the Most High. So let us prepare this energy field by saying our offertory blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
I used to be so unhappy. Life seemed so unkind. I went to see my Maharishi. He was a janitor at the time. He said, you're thinking like a one-cell zygote, huh? Acting like a dinosaur. You won't find no peace of mind till you learn that life can be more. You can resolve to evolve. Get on the spiritual path. You can resolve to evolve. Give your brain a metaphysical bath. You can resolve to evolve. Well, leave your mental baggage behind. It may sound strange, but the world won't change till you rearrange your mind. Well, ego sits in the driver's seat, a death grip on the wheel. He's got the pedal to the metal, well, does whatever he feels. The consciousness of riding shotgun says slow this vehicle down. It's time to check, time to select in which direction we're bound. You can resolve to evolve. We'll get on the spiritual path. You can resolve to evolve. Well, give yourself a metaphysical bath. You can resolve to evolve. Leave your mental baggage behind. It may sound strange, but the world won't change till you rearrange your mind. You can't fly if your army mind well, keeps dragging you down. Well, you won't grow if you just don't know why you keep spinning around and around.
I mean, it's crazy. It's like that hamster wheel. I just keep going around and around. I don't know what is
all I
going
knew
on.
what I was
Why does it
doing.
never stop?
1, 2, 3, you can resolve to evolve. Get on the spiritual path. You know the words now. You can resolve to evolve. We'll give you brain a metaphysical bath. You can resolve to evolve. We'll leave your mental baggage behind. It may sound strange, but the world won't change if you rearrange your mind. I said it may sound strange, but the world won't change till you rearrange your resolve to evolve. Oh, evolution.
Yes. Someone said that when you resolve to evolve, your problems dissolve. So we bless the tithes and offerings, knowing they're going to bless the givers and receivers as we go forth, multiplying the all good and evolving in our life, even if we got to get kicked out of paradise in order to do that. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Let's join together and sing our peace song.